Good morning, everyone, and to our professor, Ms. Maribel M. Nas. My name is Hazel M. Recto, and I am one of the presenter in career-related juries. The two topics assigned to me are the need jury or psychodynamic jury, lifespan, lifespace jury. First, let's talk the psychodynamic jury. So the proponent of the career-related psychodynamic theory is Edward S. Borden. Maybe some of you are not familiar with the work of Edward S. Borden. So he is an American psychologist, educator, spatial personality and vocational choice research jury psychotherapy, recipient Luna Tyler Award year 1985, member American Psychological Association wherein he is the president Division Counseling Psychology 1955, American Association for the Advancement of Science, Society for Psychotherapy Research wherein he is the president in year 1979, Research Career Award year 1985. So now we're going to discuss the Borden psychodynamic model of career choice. Since this theory was first proposed, it has received little subsequent attention and has essentially become of historic interest in the field. Although his work received little attention, it became useful to counselor like counselor and other professionals in understanding the career choices of an individual. So second, Borden turned to development in early childhood to account for work motivation and focus on the development of personality. So I gave emphasis on the early childhood as one of the major factors affecting the work motivation and the development of personality. Third, his emphasis is on the development of personality in relation to the role of work and play in the individual's life. So here, he characterized the play as satisfying activity that gives individual a sense of wholeness and joy. Essentially, Borden suggested that people seek work which they find intrinsically interesting or from which they can derive pleasure. It becomes a desire for a working or non-working individual to find a career that can provide them satisfaction, especially that careers sometimes demand too much effort and time. Papasok dito ang mga considerations such as interests or preferences, talents, hobbies of an individual in choosing a career path. So, with a full understanding of this concept, a counselor may able to understand why mostly of a working individual change career. It could be because of this factor. Second, Borden claimed that in young children, play and work are fused. Fused because of their limited understanding that they thought play and work are just the same in context, and that through the process of development and socialization, play and work become demarcated. He accounted for this demarcation in terms of spontaneity, which used to refer to elements of self-expression and self-realization in our responses to situation. So, as a child continually grows, he or she becomes aware about proper responses on a certain condition. So here, he realizes that play and work are now totally different on its meaning and uses. However, as they mature, play becomes more complex and they become aware of the effort needed to achieve mastery as well as the external pressures of others. External pressures would be the parents as they apply the rewards and punishments approach to their children in order to gain deeper understanding about what is good and bad. At the same time, it is applied to affect how an individual distinguishes play from work, especially in a early stage. In particular, Borden claimed that overemphasis on analysis, activation of self-consciousness, and overambition may be intimately tied to failure to fuse work and play. So approaches and strategies have to be controlled and make sure that the child has the enough ability to understand why you are trying to input in their consciousness those ideas before you do some conscientization activities. So extreme efforts converts spontaneity into compulsion. Activities are performed out of a need or compulsion to do them rather than out of an intrinsic desire to do them because they are enjoyable. So in adult, this process is reflected the reality of needing to earn a living and the desire for the personal meaning and creative expression rather than just to feel enjoyment. So nag, nag lumalawak na yung kanyang priorities and not just only for his own interest but for others also. So next, during early years, individuals build a unique identity through biological and cultural influences. Biological influences, these are the genetically acquired from their biological parents. On the other hand, the cultural influences are acquired from norms, beliefs, tradition existing in his or her social environment, or in the place where he or she resides. And these two influences set boundaries on determining the sex roles. Next one. While Borden's jury is directed towards the participation of personality in career development and the series of choices that comprise it, he also acknowledged the interaction of a number of influences, including the economic, cultural, geographical, biological, and accidental factors, and in turn, their influence on personality. So here, he applies the importance of human in environment perspective. In terms of career choice and satisfaction, Burden described the evolution of personality as the mechanism which guides cognitive processes at times of career choice, whether those points have arisen from external or internal reasons. In choosing a right career, an individual uses his or her critical thinking skills on which his personality affects how he makes decisions or what we call the cognitive capacity of a person. So here we have another set of assumptions in Borden's psychodynamic model of career choice. So, external reasons include particular stages for the education system, and internal reasons include the desire for increased work satisfaction. So here, external reason is affected by the outside influences. Meanwhile, internal reasons are the desire or their personal motivation. Next, in making choices, individuals conduct a self-assessment and gauge the probabilities of success based on intrinsic satisfaction. So, in three components of personality by Sigmund Freud, a person do not immediately respond. Here, a person do not immediately responds on what they want or their desire. Instead, they carefully decide through self-assessment and calculating its possible benefits before doing or making a decision. Another, his emphasis in career counseling focuses much more on the individual striving for inner meaning. He advocated the use of guided fantasy, dreams, examining life histories, and imaginative approaches. He also advocated examining clients' feelings, an approach which still remains under-emphasized in the field. So, for Borden, choosing a right career should be done in subjective manner rather than its objectiveness. So, here we're trying to understand the individual differences in choosing a career. Internal and external factors play significant roles in influencing the decision-making of a person. Thus, It is subjective since each persons are unique and we are living in a multicultural society. Let's now proceed to our next topic, lifespan, lifespace theory, authored by Donald E. Super. But before that, let's have a brief discussion about biography of Donald E. Super. Donald E. Super is most recognized for his contribution to the vocational guidance movement and later to counseling psychology, which included career counseling and life planning. Super began his career working as a YMCA employment counselor throughout the 1930s and 1940s. During his career, Super was also founder and director of the Cleveland, Ohio Guidance Services, as well as director of Clark University Student Personnel Bureau. Career highlights include serving as president of APA's Division of Counseling Psychology. In 1983, he received the American Psychological Association's Award for Distinguished Scientific Contribution to Applications of Psychology. He is also the recipient of a Doctor of Science degree from Oxford University. So the work of Donald E. Super becomes the most influential for the career development. So Super died on June 21, 1994 at the age of 83. Let's now discuss the two concepts in Super's theory, the lifespan and life space. So lifespan, it represents the process of career development throughout life and relates super stages of vocational development to recognize life stages. As a person undergo these different life stages, he also developed the self-concept. And the self-concept, development of the self-concept remain the central features of Super's work throughout his long career. Meanwhile, life space, it represents the roles individuals play during their lives and takes into account the context of their lives. So Super depicted his lifespan, life space approach using diagrams of a life, career rainbows, and an archway model. These two diagrams will be discussed. So let's now further discuss the model of Donald Super. So Donald Super's career model is based on the belief that self-concept changes over time and develops as a result of experience. So he used the diagram of a rainbow termed as life career rainbow. So here you can see that there are so many figures. So in this one, the outer part, arches, it depicts the longitudinal time dimension from ages 5 to 80. And the inner part, or the inner arches, it depicts the psychosocial roles: child, student, leisureette, citizen, worker, homemaker, or parent. The outside of the rainbow, this one, it illustrates the ages and stages of life. As depicted on the diagram, his 5 vocational development stages termed growth, exploration, establishment, maintenance, and decline. So these 5 vocational development is correspond with the life stages of childhood, adolescence, adulthood, middle adulthood, and old age in their approximate ages. So here, each life stages is named to reflect the nature of its principal life stage task. So here, in the circle, as you can see, there is a the center is the lifestyle factors, and it's being influenced by the environmental determinants, situational determinants, and personal determinants. Environmental determinants, it is the labor market, employment practices, institutional determinants, the historical, socioeconomic, personal determinants such as psychological and biological. So here, let's further discuss the super's 5 life and career development stages. First, we have growth, age birth to 14. The characteristics are development of self-concept attitudes and general world of work. So, in this stage, individuals attend school, develop work habits, and gain more control over their lives and become future-oriented. So these developmental tasks have been expressed in terms of 4C's. So here, the 4C's are concern about the future, control over decision making, conviction to achieve, and competence in work habits and attitudes. So at this stage of life and career development, an individual is starting to develop a sense of independence and control and self-control over their preferences, decision making, and plan for their futures. So the second 5 life and career development stages is the exploration, age 15 to 24. The characteristics are trying out classes, work, hobbies, tentative, choice, and skill development. Also, in this time when career choices are narrowed and individuals frequently have selected and embark on training or education to prepare them for their chosen vocation. So, it is during this stage that a vocational identity develops. This stage involves 3 career development tasks. So here, the first task during this stage is crystallization. Crystallization is the cognitive process of forming a vocational goal on the basis of vocational information and awareness of traits such as interests and values. So at this point, an individual is planning what um, career or courses they want to take in college. So the career counseling is very crucial at this point because sila inaalam pa nila kung ano yung mga bagay na courses para sa kanila. Considering their interests, their hobbies, also, the economic status of the family could also a factor kung ano yung pipiliin nila. The next task is the specification task. It is the actual selection of a specific career or their chosen courses. The last is the implementation task. Implementation task is that they follows or the individual train for their selected vocation and begin employment. This is followed by the stage of establishment, during which time the individual gains employment. So the characteristics are entry level, skill building, and stabilizing work experience. The first task is to stabilize their position in the organization through becoming familiar with its culture and performing satisfactorily. Once stabilized in an occupation, the next task for the individual is to consolidate his or her position. Some individuals may also choose the task of advancement or promotion and seeking higher levels of responsibility. Thus, as I noticed, most of the employment status in government are not permanent, like JAO or job order, MOA, and contractual. So, when you are already in the establishment stage, the employee is now seeking for a secured employment. So once na merong permanent position na available, talagang applyan niya yan. So for promotion, nandito yung advancement sa studies, like they taking master's degree para maging way yon for them to have a higher position. So the fourth stage is maintenance, age 45 to 64. So the characteristics is continual adjustment process to improve position and preserving the place one has made in the world of work. But prior to entering this stage, individual may evaluate their occupation if the current position, the time is, doon na ba, satisfied na ba sila doon, preferred na ba nila yung position na yon until they reach 60s or retirement stage. If not, they may decide to change organization or occupation. So in this stage, or in this case, they then recycle through the stage of exploration. So babalik sila dun sa exploration and establishment stages, or what supers called mini cycle. Those who do not change will enter the stage of maintenance. The tasks of this stage include holding on, keeping up, and innovating. So, similar siya sa establishment that this stage may be more difficult to attain in the present world of work that is characterized by less stable and secure employment. So, the final stage of Super's 5 life and career development is decline, age 65 up. So the characteristics are reduced output, preparation for retirement. So it is associated with the different tasks. The task for planning for the retirement, possible reduction of workload, and eventual retirement. This stage represents a major transition during which individuals more fully develop self-concept in roles other than work roles. So moreover, as the world of work has changed, this stage may involve options such as part-time work, so temporarily, or contract work, or provide opportunities to work in different work roles na di nila na-try noong mga earliest stage that may be more fulfilling. Let's now discuss life space. Concept of life space provides the contextual dimension and the theory denoting the constellation of social positions and roles enacted by an individual. Super originally identified 9 life roles. It is the child, student, leisureette, citizen, worker, spouse, homemaker, parent, and pensioner, and 4 main contexts or theaters where these roles were most commonly enacted, specifically the home, community, school, college and university, and workplace. In identifying these life roles, Super also illustrated the complexities of self-concept implementation as roles change and interact across time. The life space deals with the context of career development within a web of social roles individuals occupy and enact over the lifespan. To further illustrate the life space concept, Supers used the Archway model. So he introduced the concept of personal determinants and situational determinants, which are the range of factors which could impact on career decision making. The archway is referred to as a segmental model and visually portrays the psychological characteristics and social forces as the segments or the stones of each column. Let's now discuss the Super's archway model, which is divided into 2 sides, the personal determinants and the situational determinants. The personal determinants are represented on the left column of the archway in this part and include personal factors such as interest, values, needs, intelligence, aptitudes, special aptitudes that um, affects the personality of a person toward achieving their um, career goals or their plans in life. Meanwhile, the situational determinants are represented on the right column of the archway and include contextual factors such as community, school, family, peer group, labor market, society, the economy. And these contextual factors affect the formation of social policies such as laws, which become the basis of employment practices. Developmental stage and Developmental stages and the role self-concepts are also included in the arc on each side of the keystone. So this is the keystone. So the keystone of the arc is the person, so located at the middle, in whom all of the variables are brought together. Super explained the need to understand the interaction between the segments of the model rather than which segment is most important. So it is in a holistic type. Thus, the emphasis is not on one or other of the segments, but rather on the interaction between all of them. So systematic siya, in which everything are interrelated that affects the whole system. He claimed that individuals learn through interaction with the environment or social learning, or the interpersonal learning or learning from others, and terms this experiential or interactive learning. So here he used the learning theory as reflective of the interactive nature of the model as the information is brought together in and processed by the individual, resulting in the shaping of their self-concept and occupational concept. In his Arqui model, Super acknowledged the work of other theorists and include many factors which influence career development. This also supports his description of his work as a segmental theory and his claims that there is no super theory. There is just an assemblage of theories that he has attempted to synthesize. For more readings, you can use my references. So, end of my slide. Thank you for listening.